The CEO called my personal cell at 6:47 on a Tuesday evening. No secretary, no scheduling, just him breathing hard on the other end. "What will it take?" he said. I was 47 years old, 27 years at Hartwell Manufacturing. Never heard a man sound that desperate. Hudson Clark, that's me. And I'm going to tell you how I got a CEO to beg. Started 3 weeks earlier. The champagne cork hit the ceiling tile, bounced off that motivational poster about innovation. Nobody noticed, too busy celebrating my work. 3 years I'd spent on that ERP migration, Cobalt mainframe to cloud infrastructure, zero downtime during cutover. Board could finally see real-time financials instead of waiting for quarterly printouts. Accounts payable automated, inventory tracking live, customer credit analysis running smooth as silk. I built that system line by line, weekend after weekend, while everyone else went home. Shane Walsh walked in around 2. You know the type. 33 years old, MBA from whatever school his daddy paid for. Somehow, my boss, despite never writing a line of code in his life, always had that look. Like he was doing you a favor just by talking to you. Kid grew up thinking the world owed him something because his last name was on the building. Never had to earn respect, just expected it. Hudson, hey, got a second? Didn't wait for an answer? Never did. So about your bonus. Corporate's doing this thing where they're tightening up on post-project payouts. Policy shift, you understand, right? 27 years. This kid was telling me about policy. Policy shift, I said. Not a question. Just repeated it back. Yeah, man, not personal. Just belt tightening across the board, already moving toward the door. Already done with the conversation. Not personal, right? Not personal like the weekends I'd spent debugging integration failures while Shane posted LinkedIn updates about leading digital transformation. Not personal like my granddaughter Lisa's college fund counting on that money. She was 19, sophomore at State, studying engineering like her grandpa. Tuition was due in 6 weeks. Not personal like the contract clause I'd negotiated 3 years ago when his father almost outsourced this entire project to consultants in Dallas. I nodded once. Got it. What I got was this. They thought I was disposable. The old guy who rebuilt their financial backbone from legacy systems held together with duct tape and prayer. The guy who'd survived 2 recessions, 3 acquisitions, and more managers than I could count. That guy could be filed under cost savings. They were wrong about one thing, though, that contract clause. Page 47, Appendix C, Clause 8.2, buried in the vendor licensing agreement, nobody else had bothered to read. In the event that the designated principal architect, as defined in Addendum A, is removed from active compensated status for any period exceeding 96 hours, this license shall be deemed null and void with all access rights terminated immediately. I'd fought for that sentence 3 years ago. Shane's father wanted to cut me loose. I was 44 then, too expensive, too set in my ways, not agile enough, whatever that meant. So I called the vendor's legal team, explained the situation, made sure my name got written into that contract in permanent ink. If they wanted to use the software running their entire financial infrastructure, I had to be employed and paid. Insurance policy, just in case. Like now, I walked back to my desk. Party noise faded into background static. Inbox full of requests, reports, questions about architecture. Everyone wanted something. I gave them what they needed. Professional, no edge, but something clicked. Not anger, just cold clarity that comes from watching people like Shane fail upward for 3 decades while people like me kept the lights on. Opened an encrypted folder, pulled up the contract PDF, fully executed, signatures from everyone who mattered, stared at Clause 8.2 for a long time. Remembered the fight to get it included. Shane's father rolling his eyes. Fine, whatever, just get it done. Then I opened Outlook. Patricia Webb, legal counsel. Subject, FYI, potential licensing issue. 4 sentences. Hi, Patricia. Looping you in on the ERP vendor license, specifically Appendix C, Clause 8.2. May be compliance implications regarding current compensation structure. Full contract attached. Hit send, not dramatic, no threats, just information. But I knew what would happen. Patricia Webb was Curtis Webb's niece. But unlike Shane, she'd earned her spot. Smart, thorough, actually read contracts. Once she saw that clause, she'd understand exactly what Shane's policy shift had triggered. Left at 6, same as always, waved to the cleaning crew. Walked to my truck with a leather notebook in my bag. Inside that notebook, handwritten logs. Every system dependency, every integration point, every piece of infrastructure that relied on my code. 63 critical systems. Financial close procedures, board dashboards, payroll calculations, inventory tracking, customer credit models, all tied to that license, all about to fail in 4 days. Monday morning started quiet, too quiet. Got my coffee. Same burned pot sitting there since 6. Settled at my desk, checked email. Overnight reports ran clean. Board dashboards refreshed. Everything humming along on the system I'd built. 9:47 a.m., I got removed from the digital transformation Slack channel. No explanation. 1 second reading a thread about Q4 planning. Next second, you no longer have access. 10 minutes later, my calendar invite to Monday technical sync disappeared. They were icing me out. Shane probably thought he was being strategic. Cut off access. Maybe I'd fade away quietly. Kid never learned that the guys who actually build things don't just disappear. We leave footprints. I opened Excel, new spreadsheet, critical dependencies, ERP v4.2, started listing, financial close process, my stored procedures, board reporting, my data warehouse, accounts payable, my automation scripts, payroll, my Cobalt translation code. By lunch, 63 systems. By end of day, 81. Each one had a column. Failure condition without license. Most would collapse within 4 days, some within hours. The deeper I dug, the more I realized how completely they'd built their world on my foundation. Shane never responded to Patricia's email. I could see the read receipt. He just ignored it, probably figured legal was being overly cautious. Contracts were just words on paper to guys like him. Everything had always worked out before. Why wouldn't it now? Friday, I did something I hadn't done in 27 years. Backed up everything. Every script, every diagram, every piece of documentation. Encrypted it all on a drive I took home. Not malice, preparation. The kind of thing you do when you've been around long enough to know that companies will always choose short-term savings over long-term stability. The weekend I went fishing. Didn't catch anything. That wasn't the point. Sat in my boat thinking about that deadline. 96 hours since they officially denied my bonus. Clock would hit 0 Monday at midnight. Thought about Lisa. Smart kid, wanted to study engineering like her grandpa. Junior year tuition was due in 6 weeks, and without that bonus, she'd be looking at student loans for the rest of her degree. Thought about Shane walking into that party with his smirk, treating my life's work like it was his personal achievement. Mostly thought about companies that spend decades building loyalty, then throw it away for quarterly numbers. Monday afternoon, Patricia called an emergency meeting. No calendar invite, just quiet hallway conversations pulling people into conference room B. I wasn't invited, didn't need to be. Through the glass wall, I could see Shane's face going red. Finance director flipping through spreadsheets. Patricia Webb sitting perfectly still at the table's head. She looked tired, made eye contact across the office, slight nod, then headed toward the CEO's corner office. At 11:43 p.m., the deadline passed. System didn't explode. No alarms, no error messages, just stopped. Quietly, completely, like a heart that simply decided not to beat anymore. Tuesday morning smelled like panic and burnt coffee. First sign was the CFO's daily report. Didn't generate. No email, no dashboard refresh, just nothing. By 7 a.m., help desk was fielding calls from every department. Systems down, dashboards blank, data not loading. By 8, the vendor's automated compliance system had scanned our license status. One line came back, license invalid due to breach of contract clause C8.2. Contact account holder for reinstatement. Account holder was me. I was at my desk, terrible coffee in my chipped mug, watching it unfold. Every executive dashboard showed the same thing, authorization failure. Contact system administrator, financial reporting locked, accounts payable frozen. Inventory systems read-only mode. Payroll running on cache data that would expire in 72 hours. Shane tried to spin it. Sent an all staff about temporary vendor authentication issues. Said it was working on it. Patricia Webb replied all. One sentence. This is a licensing breach, not a technical issue. That's when people started to understand. By 9, the CEO had called an emergency meeting, executive level only. Conference room filled with people who'd barely looked at me in 3 years. Could see Shane through the glass, gesturing at his laptop, talking fast. His father's face went from confused to concerned to stone cold. Patricia slid the contract across the table, pointed to page 47. started explaining what Appendix C, Clause 8.2 meant in plain English. The CEO's assistant walked past my desk around 10:30, carrying her laptop like a live grenade, muttering under her breath. Vendor sent a follow-up at 11:15. Word spread fast through the office. Per licensing agreement, system access requires principal architect Hudson Clark to be in active compensated employment status. Current status, breach. Estimated time to alternative compliance pathway, 90 to 120 days minimum. They couldn't just hire someone else. Contract required me. Specifically, renegotiating would take months. Legal review, vendor approval, system recertification. Meanwhile, every dashboard the board used to run the company was dark. You want to know what that looks like? Manufacturing company can't see inventory levels. Finance can't close the books. Sales can't track orders. Payrolls got 3 days before paychecks don't process. All because they stiffed me on a bonus. Around noon, the building got that funeral home quiet. Phones rang, but nobody answered. Slack channels were graveyards. Confused questions. Radio silence. People rebooting routers like that would fix a licensing breach. Marketing blamed IT blamed the vendor. Vendor sent back another brutal line. Your license is invalid. Contact your designated account lead. That was me, still sitting at my desk, working on a side project for a consulting gig I'd lined up. They'd be paying actual money and respect. Already a better deal. 12:40 p.m. A kid from HR walked over, Tyler something. Not my Shane, young guy. Fear in his eyes. Deodorant stains down both armpits. Hey, Shane was wondering if maybe you could help draft some transition documentation, voice cracking. Just so the team can keep things moving. I looked up, blinked once. Documentation for a system I can't legally access anymore. Kid turned red. Well, yeah, but just like so we can tell Shane I'm not available, I said, even tone. And next time, don't send someone who doesn't understand what breach means. He nodded too fast, shuffled off. I went back to my terminal, quietly deleted my personal credentials from every sandbox instance, not in anger, just closure. Meanwhile, HR made their move. Tried to process a backdated bonus. Wasn't even subtle. Timestamp showed 11:04 a.m., hours after the breach notification. Labeled it manual adjustment, discretionary. Thought they could slap a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Patricia wasn't having it. Sent a company-wide email. Short, brutal. Retroactive compensation does not resolve breach status per contract clause 8.2. Timestamp payment logs confirm violation. Platform remains unlicensed. Disclosure to vendor and investors will proceed. There it was, black and white from legal. Still, Shane tried to spin it. Overheard him in the hallway, telling someone from finance that maybe I could have just come to him directly instead of escalating through legal. I'd sent him 3 emails over 6 months about compensation timing. Marked red. Never responded. The stupidity wasn't surprising. What shocked me was how committed they were to it. Flaming Meteor headed for their quarterly report. Their plan was to hand me a Word doc template and hope I'd play ball, but I wasn't playing anymore. Wasn't even on the field. Walked past conference room B around 2. Inside, panic. 4 people on a video call. One crying, one pacing, Shane gesturing at a spreadsheet showing nothing but error codes. Didn't slow down. Just smiled at the vending machine. Twix was sold out, still more reliable than their leadership. By 3, reality was setting in. The board had a meeting scheduled for Thursday, quarterly review. They needed those dashboards, needed the financial data, needed proof the company was running smoothly. Instead, they had blank screens and a licensing breach. Investor relations was scrambling. How do you explain to shareholders that your entire financial infrastructure is down because you didn't pay a bonus? Compliance was worse. SEC requires accurate financial reporting. Can't report what you can't access. Insurance was calling. Cyber liability policy had questions about the outage. Every hour that system stayed dark, the hole got deeper. I heard later what happened in that executive meeting. Patricia laid it out, not just operational chaos. Legal exposure. Every report they'd sent to investors using that data, every board presentation, every quarterly filing. If the breach wasn't resolved, all of it became questionable. Potentially fraudulent. If they'd known about the licensing issue, the CEO asked one question: "Can we fix this?" Patricia didn't sugarcoat it. You had a fix. You decided a bonus wasn't worth the policy exception. Shane tried to talk. His father waved him off like a mosquito. How bad? The CEO asked. Disclosure to board and investors by Friday. Vendor compliance review. Possible SEC inquiry if financial reporting is compromised. And every day we're down. We're bleeding. Silence. Then, get me Hudson Clark's attorney. By 6, I was home. Fed the cat, poured 2 fingers of whiskey, sat on my back porch watching the sun go down. Phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. They want to talk tomorrow morning. Your terms. I didn't respond right away. Just sat there thinking about Lisa's college fund, about 27 years of showing up, about Shane's smirk when he delivered that not personal line, about the contract clause I'd buried 3 years ago like insurance, nobody thought I'd ever use. Finally, texted back, my attorney will send terms, 24-hour window. She replied immediately, understood. I finished my whiskey, went inside, opened my laptop. The proposal was already drafted. My attorney and I had prepared it 2 weeks ago. Before launch, before Shane got cute, before any of this, we knew. Subject line. Reinstatement terms, 24-hour response required. 3 bullet points, full payment of withheld bonus plus 40% breach penalty. Buyout of contract clause allowing immediate retirement with consulting option. Written acknowledgement of contributions to be read at next all hands and published in company records. Dollar amount at the bottom, $627,000. Forwarded it to Patricia, copied my attorney. Then I went to bed, slept better than I had in weeks. Wednesday morning my phone started buzzing at 6:15 a.m. Not my work cell, my personal cell. The number I'd given to maybe 5 people at Hartwell in 27 years. Didn't answer. Made coffee instead. Scrambled some eggs, fed the cat. Phone kept buzzing. By 7, I had 12 missed calls, 8 voicemails. Didn't listen to them, knew what they'd say anyway. Sat on my porch with my coffee. Watched the sun come up. Thought about going fishing. Phone rang again. This time I looked. Patricia Webb answered on the 4th ring. Morning, Patricia. Hudson, she sounded tired. They want to meet this morning. Your attorney can attend via video. They have my terms. I said, I know. They're reviewing. Pause, 24 hours. That was the window. Silence on her end. Then the board meets tomorrow. They need an answer for investors. The breach is, I know what the breach is, I said. I built the system. Hudson, her voice dropped, between us. You're right. You were always right. But they're panicking. Curtis is scared. Good, I thought, but didn't say it. Meetings at 9, she said. Conference room A. Just hear them out. I checked my watch. 7:42. I'll think about it, I said. Hung up, finished my coffee. Thought about Lisa, about 27 years. About that smirk on Shane's face. About the number in my proposal, $627,000. At 8:30 I called my attorney. They're going to lowball, he said. I know. And Hudson, you don't have to take the meeting. We can do this through counsel. I know that too, but I want to see their faces. Got to the office at 8:55, 5 minutes early. Old habit. Patricia was waiting in the lobby. Led me to conference room A, the big one, floor-to-ceiling windows, view of downtown, inside. The CEO, CFO, head of HR, Shane in the back corner, looking like he'd been told to sit there and shut up. My attorney on the big screen video call. CEO stood up when I walked in, extended his hand. I didn't take it. Just sat down, Hudson, he said. Thank you for coming. Didn't respond, just waited. He cleared his throat, looked at papers in front of him. We've reviewed your proposal. We understand the situation. The breach, the timeline, all of it. Waited. The number you've proposed is substantial. We'd like to discuss alternatives that might be more. No, I said. He stopped. I'm sorry. No alternatives. Those are the terms. You have until this evening to accept or decline. CFO leaned forward. Younger guy, never learned his name. Mr. Clark, we're talking about over $500,000 for what amounts to a contractual technicality. Technicality? I looked at him. Your entire financial infrastructure is down. Board meets tomorrow. You can't report earnings. Can't process payroll by Friday. Can't tell investors why their dashboards are blank. That a technicality. He shut up. CEO tried again. Hudson, you've been with us 27 years. We value that. We value you. This is just, it's a difficult budget year. Board's watching expenses closely. If we could find middle ground, You valued me so much you denied my bonus for policy reasons, I said. You valued me so much my name wasn't in the post-launch report. You valued me so much Shane here removed me from Slack channels on Monday. Shane shifted in his chair, didn't look up. You had middle ground, I continued. It was called honoring your contract. Paying what you promised. That ship sailed. CEO sat back. Looked at Patricia. She shook her head slightly, meaning, I told you, what about the consulting arrangement? HR spoke up. Could we structure more of the payout through that? Spread it over time? My attorney's voice came through the speaker. No, cash payment, wire transfer, full amount by close of business today, or the offer expires. That's less than 12 hours, CFO said. Yes, my attorney replied. It is. Silence. CEO rubbed his face. Looked older than I remembered. If we don't accept, then I file the formal breach escalation with the vendor's compliance team, I said. They notify your investors, insurance carriers, and banking partners. You spend the next quarter explaining to the board and SEC why you can't access your own financial data. Meanwhile, your competitors are watching. Your customers are nervous. Your stock price is tanking. More silence. You also lose the consulting option, my attorney added. Hudson walks completely. You're left renegotiating a license that took 3 years to structure originally. Best case, you're operational again in 4 months. Worst case, you're migrating to a new vendor. That's 18 months minimum. CEO looked at the papers again, at the number $627,000. This is extortion, he said quietly. No, I said. This is the consequence of breaking a contract I specifically negotiated to prevent exactly this situation. You chose not to read it. You chose not to honor it. You chose to treat me like I was disposable. Looked at Shane, he was staring at the table. And you, I said to him. You told me it wasn't personal. He finally looked up, face pale. This isn't personal either, I said. It's just business. Policy, you understand. He flinched like I'd slapped him. CEO stood up. I need to make some calls. Can you give us an hour? I looked at my watch. You've got until 5 p.m. Not an hour. Not a negotiation, yes or no, stood up, headed for the door. Hudson, CEO said. I stopped. Didn't turn around. We should have just paid you. Yes, I said. You should have. Walked out. Spent the rest of the morning at a coffee shop downtown. Good coffee for once. Sat by the window, read the paper. Phone buzzed constantly. Ignored most of it. Patricia texted at 11:30. They're arguing about budget allocation. KFO's pushing back. Didn't respond. At 1:15, CEO's talking to board members, explaining the situation, still didn't respond. At 2:47, they're going to accept. Finalizing approval now, replied. Wire instructions with my attorney. Confirmation by 5 p.m. or offer expires. At 3:42, my attorney called. Wires processing, he said, should hit your account within the hour. All of it, every penny. Plus they've agreed to the written acknowledgement. CEO will read it Friday at all hands. I sat back, watched people walking past outside, regular Wednesday afternoon, nobody knowing what had just happened. Hudson, my attorney said, you still there? Yeah, I said, I'm here. How do you feel? Good question. Didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel angry anymore. Just done. Tired, I said. Well, you just made them pay $627,000 for violating a contract you warned them about. That's not tired, that's winning, maybe. But winning at 47 after 27 years shouldn't feel like this. At 4:33 p.m., my phone pinged, bank notification, wire transfer received, $627,000. Sat there staring at it for a long time, all because they wouldn't pay a bonus, all because they thought I didn't matter, all because I'd read the contract, drove home, fed the cat, poured whiskey, sat on the porch again, thought about what comes next. Lisa's college fund was secure now, junior and senior year covered, maybe graduate school if she wanted. Retirement was solid, could stop working tomorrow if I wanted. But the consulting offer was still on the table. My terms, my hours, my rate. Phone rang at 6:47 p.m. That's when the CEO called my personal cell. And that's when I realized they needed one more thing. They needed me to say yes. What will it take? That's what he said. The CEO, 6:47 on a Tuesday evening. I was at home, whiskey in hand, cat on my lap. Take for what? I said, to turn it back on the system. We need it operational by tomorrow morning. Board meetings at 9. I took a sip. Let him wait. You already have my terms, I said. The money's transferred. You got it, right? I got it. So we're square. You can reactivate the license now. I almost laughed, almost. That's not how this works. I said, what do you mean? You got paid. We accepted your terms. The payment reinstates the license legally. Legally, I said, doesn't mean the system comes back automatically. Someone has to do the work. Coordinate with the vendor. Verify the compliance. Rebuild the authentication layer. Test everything. Silence on his end. How long does that take? He finally asked. Depends. On what? On whether I'm doing it. Could hear him breathing, calculating. The consulting arrangement, he said. 300 an hour. 20 hours a month. You'd do it. Maybe. Hudson, please. We need an answer. Finished my whiskey. Looked out at the dark yard. 27 years I'd given them. Fixed their problems. Trained their people. Built their infrastructure. Kept the lights on while people like Shane climbed over me. And now they needed me again. I'll do it, I said. But not tonight. Not tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon. After the board meeting. After, Hudson, we need those dashboards for the meeting. Should have thought about that before you broke the contract, I said. Tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Take it or leave it. Long pause. Fine, he said. 3 p.m. One more thing, I said. What? Shane's not in the room when I work, not on the calls. Not involved at all. I deal with Patricia and you directly. Done. Hung up. Sat there for a while thinking about what I'd just agreed to, not going back full-time. Never that, but consulting on my terms, my schedule, my rate. Yeah, I could do that. Because here's the thing. I didn't hate the work. I hated being disposable. Thursday morning, I didn't go to the office, slept in, made a real breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast, read the paper cover to cover. Phone buzzed around 8. Patricia, board meeting started. They're asking about timeline. Replied, 3 p.m. like we discussed. At 9:15, CEO's reading your acknowledgement now. Didn't respond to that one. At 11:30, she sent a photo. The all-hands presentation slide on the big screen. Enterprise Resource Planning Success. In recognition of Hudson Clark. Bullet points below. 27 years of service. Principal architect. Led the COBOL to cloud migration critical to company infrastructure. My name. Finally, Patricia's text. He read it word for word. Shane was there. You should have seen his face. Should have, but didn't need to. At 2:20:45, I drove to the office. Patricia met me in the lobby. Walked me to a conference room. Not the big one. Small room. Quiet IT director was there. Senior engineer I'd trained 5 years ago. Good kid. Listened when you taught him something. Okay, I said. Let's fix this. Took 4 hours. Called the vendor. Verified my employment status. Confirmed the compensation. Walked them through the reinstatement process. Reset the authentication keys. Rebuilt the access controls. Tested every integration point. At 6:52 p.m., the first dashboard came back online. By 7, financial reporting was running. By 7:30, accounts payable was processing. By 8, everything was humming again, like nothing had happened. Except everything had happened. The IT director shook my hand. Thanks, Hudson. We couldn't have done this without you. I know, I said. Wasn't arrogance, just fact. Packed up my laptop, headed out. Patricia caught me at the elevator. You did good, she said. I did my job. More than that, she paused. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. The way they treated you, it was wrong. I believed her. She was one of the good ones. You gonna stick around? She asked. The consulting thing? For a while, I said. Until they don't need me anymore. Or until I don't feel like it. Fair enough. Elevator opened. I stepped in. Hudson, she called. Held the door. Next time someone builds something important here, I'm making sure their name's in the contract. First page, bold letters. I nodded. Good. Friday afternoon, the wire transfer cleared completely. Moved most of it to Lisa's college fund. Set aside some for retirement. Kept enough for a new boat. Been wanting one for years. Saturday morning, I took Lisa out for breakfast. 19 years old, sharp as a tack. Junior at State studying mechanical engineering. Grandpa, she said over pancakes, Mom told me about your bonus. About what happened. I shrugged. It worked out, but they tried to screw you over. Yes, and you made them pay. Yes, she grinned. That's brilliant, I laughed. First real laugh in weeks. What did you learn from it? I asked. She thought about it, poured more syrup on her pancakes. Get it in writing, she said, and read the fine print. That's part of it. What's the rest? Know your worth, she said. Don't let anyone convince you you're replaceable. And if they try, make damn sure you've got leverage. She nodded. Serious now. Did you plan it? The contract thing, plan for the possibility, I said. Hoped I'd never need it. But when you work somewhere long enough, you learn. Loyalty is a one-way street in corporate America. You protect yourself or nobody will. That's kind of sad. It is, I agreed. But it's true. We finished breakfast. I paid. Dropped her at campus. Drove to the lake, looked at boats. These days I consult twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, 4 hours each. My rate, my schedule. Fixed a few more things at Hartwell. Trained their new architect. Good guy, younger, knows his stuff. I made sure his contract had the same clause as mine did. Patricia saw to it. Shane got reassigned. Strategic advisor with no team, fancy title, no power. His father's way of saving face while benching him. Heard he's looking for jobs elsewhere. Good luck with that. The story spread. LinkedIn, engineering forums, trade publications. The Hudson Clark case, they called it. Senior engineer protects himself with one contract clause. Company learns expensive lesson. Got invited to speak at a few conferences. Took some, declined others. Phone rings with consulting offers. Pick the interesting ones. Turned down the rest. Because here's what 47 years taught me. You spend your whole career building things, making them work, fixing what's broken, training the next generation. And somewhere along the way, companies forget that infrastructure doesn't maintain itself, that expertise isn't replaceable, that the quiet guy in the corner who never complains might be the only thing keeping the lights on. They remember eventually. Usually when everything goes dark, I'm fishing more now, got that new boat, nothing fancy, just reliable. Sleep better than I have in years. And somewhere in Hartwell's server room, the system I built keeps running, efficiently, reliably, with my name in the documentation where it belongs. That's not revenge, that's just making sure the record's straight. Because after 27 years, I earned that much and a whole lot more. Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens and handcuffs, sometimes it comes quietly. Like the sunrise, changing everything without making a sound. And sometimes if you build your safeguards right and wait for the perfect moment, the truth protects itself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting exactly what you're worth. And making sure everyone knows who built the foundation they've been standing on. The quiet guys who keep the lights on. We don't just disappear when you push us out. We take the blueprints with us. And sometimes, those blueprints are the only thing keeping your world from going dark.